Hello.
Welcome back to Historia.
I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
We're here to bring you some history today. And if you've never listened before, hello. Welcome.
We are very random individuals.
Our episodes go crazy, from anything from mythology to national parks to haunted objects. You never know what to expect.
To random people in history to even events.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So
it's crazy how, like, honestly, I don't go into, like, when I sit down and I'm like, okay, I need to think of what I'm gonna do. Mm-hmm. I just, like, shoot off random ideas in my head, and I'm like, and then random other ideas pop, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. And sometimes I literally see something on Instagram and I'm like, haha, I want to cover that.
Yeah, I'll, like, hear about things or see things, and then I write it in my note, because I have, like, a note on my phone that has ideas that I eventually want to cover.
Yeah.
So, and then when I'm, like, going to research something, I look through that list, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
I know I had a list, but then Remy destroyed my book.
Of course, yeah.
So, Remy's my
dogs.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was sad.
That is sad.
I'm still recovering.
Emotionally.
Literally. Damn dog. Love him, but he's such a boob.
I'm also thinking maybe soon we'll be doing another remastered episode from one of our old ones.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should maybe throw one of those in soon.
So oh my God, we should do Disney after I go to Disney.
Yeah.
I'm going to Disney again.
Yeah.
I'm going to Disneyland.
I'm so jealous. I miss it every day. I'm like, I miss Disney.
I know, my sister literally was like, hey, you want to go? And I was like, okay.
I love it.
Of course, like, I told my husband, he was like, you're going back to Disney? And I was like, you just went hunting in Missouri for a week. The least you can do is
support
support me to go to Disneyland.
Yeah, of course. It's important stuff.
Exactly. So I was like, I hope you know you're dropping us off and picking us up. He's like, okay. So
I love it.
This week is just another one that I just randomly threw out. And I was like, oh, I've been wanting to cover this. Let's do it. So let's get started.
All right.
So this week, I wanted to take us back a few thousand years.
Are we doing Egypt?
Yeah.
I knew it.
I can't help myself. I love ancient Egyptian history.
It is so interesting.
It is interesting. And they're finding out more every single year. They are getting close. They think they're getting close to finding Cleopatra and Mark Antony's tomb. They think they're getting close, so.
That's exciting.
We'll see if they ever find it. People are like, why do they even want to find it? I'm like, because they want to know how she actually died.
Yeah, of course.
We gotta want to know these stuff. People who don't like history don't understand it.
Yeah,
but whatever. Yeah, you can go sit on a rock and cry about it. I don't care. So unlike some of my other discussions on ancient Egypt this week, I am going to be covering a monument rather than a person. So to continue our coverage of the wonders of the world, this week I am going to be covering an ancient wonder of the world, the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm excited for this one.
Mm-hmm. So before I dive in, I just want to go over where I got my information from. I got info from astronomicalheritage.net website, The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt by Toby Wilkinson. Love that book. I also got info from from my book Ancient Egypt by Aidan Dodson and the Encyclopedia of Ancient Egypt by Helen Strudwick. You have no idea how many books on ancient Egypt I have. I wanted to use my Ikram book, but I decided not to this week.
You have a whole library.
I love Salima Ikram. She's one of my favorite Egyptologists. She's awesome. So all pretty good information I collected, and they all focused on different parts of the pyramid, which was super helpful in that aspect. But it also, I was literally had like the books all around me, and I was looking like one of those montages in like a rom-com or like a movie where they're like literally just like pretend reading like all of this stuff. Yet I was actually reading.
And it shows like hours later.
Literally.
Sun goes down, you fall asleep on it.
That was me. So let's get started. To start off, this ancient wonder of the world is the only one remaining that one can visit, unless you go scuba diving to see the Alexandria Lighthouse, as we covered.
Yeah. I won't be doing that, but thank you.
I want to. That sounds so much fun.
I'm scared of water.
What?
Like, I'm scared of, like, deep bodies of water.
There's no way it's that deep.
That's true. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad.
I think it would be fun because they still have, like, sphinxes and stuff.
It would be cool
underwater.
to see, like, what's under there.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, but the Pyramid of Giza is a wonder that has many speculating over centuries how such a thing could be built by people. We have all heard that the pyramids have been built by aliens. But come on. We got to give these poor people who slaved over this monument some credit. Literally. I'm like,
they're just so perfect. These people worked hard, okay?
Literally.
Cared.
They were very good astronomers and architects. So we start our story during the Old Kingdom. So the Old Kingdom would be the reign from 2686 to 2181 BC. Remember, BC goes down, not up.
Yep.
This is a long ass time ago. So this was about over 4,600 years ago
Crazy.
that the Old Kingdom started. Yep. A long ass time ago. So it was about 4,000 years old. It's an old monument. So we see during this period of time, the rise of building from the pharaohs. So they were doing a lot of building during this time. This period was also called the Pyramid Period. During this time frame, many of the rulers would create pyramids to flaunt their power, wealth, and where they would be buried for their continuation into the afterlife. Power was like the number one. It was like the top priority. Bigger, the better. Bigger pyramid you built,
The better.
big dig energy.
BPE. Big Pyramid Energy.
I love that. Of the pharaohs who had pyramids created during their reign, it is the pharaoh Khufu who had the ultimate pyramid built. Big guy. During the 4th dynasty, Pharaoh Khufu thought of how he could demonstrate his power to the people. The pharaoh himself, there is not much known about him and his rule, but he made himself known through his architecture. Mm-hmm. Like literally, his reign was so long ago. They're like, it was a pretty calm time, so there was like not much like civil war, really that much issues going on, but like we know enough that like, hey, he had enough time to have people build this giant ass pyramid for him.
Yeah.
What we do know was that he was the second pharaoh to the 4th dynasty who would have lived from 2589 to 2525 BC. My sources had different dates from one another, which is common with history this old. So it like they were only a couple years off from like one another. Mm-hmm. It was kind of all over the place. So I was like, I'm just gonna do a rough estimate.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell which is spot on. So I'm sure there's others that are like, it's definitely this day, while others are like, no, it was this day. And I'm like,
it's one of those days.
Yeah, it was a long ass time ago. We have also discovered in this time that Khufu was very close with his mother, as she would have a spot close to his tomb and not her husband Khufu's father, Senefru. That's the T. So yeah, his wife was not in that tomb with him.
Damn.
Which
that
the
is
queen
the
always
tea.
is. Yeah. It can be assumed that Khufu had wives, but none were really mentioned in my ratings. I think there was one that was like his actual wife, but he may have like 3 or 4. He did, though, have 2 sons who fought for power after his death. That's a story in itself. His 2 sons were Jedefra and Khafra. So they have a pretty big story after, and I think they actually built pyramids too, but not as big. One of them, I think it was Khafra that had the Sphinx built. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
Those are some stories that I want to get into about them at some point. Now, getting into the monument, this was a massive project to take on. It would take 23 years to build up until the end of Khufu's reign. It would take 2.3 million blocks of stone to create the structure.
My God.
So between the 10-hour shifts, there would have to be a block moved every 2 minutes to fit this 20-year time frame. Yeah.
Jeez.
And these blocks were not small. When completed, the pyramid would stand at 481 feet tall. I didn't look to see how many meters that is, so I apologize. It would be the tallest structure until the Eiffel Tower came around.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the tallest one in the world for the longest time.
Long time.
Literally about like 3,000 years.
Yeah.
So each block that would be added would weigh over a ton. Just one block. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They had to move that every 2 minutes.
Jesus.
This took a lot of strength and smarts to figure out how to place
I would've
each
given up.
blocks. Yeah.
After like 5, I'd be like, no, I'm fucking done.
Dude, these people are wild. The base of the structure is about 230 by 230 meters. They were very precise about where they were going to locate this because they're smart. It would be built from limestone, which would give this would give a shimmery white color that would make itself known to see from like a great distance. Like if you look at pictures of like, oh, what did the pyramids or what did like Cairo look like back in the day? And it used to have like a water, it used to be very colorful, very green. The pyramids were like white almost.
Oh, so cool.
But like over the years, like they have found that a lot of like the outer layer, like the limestone and stuff, like they've kind of chipped away at it because they like covered it. They chipped away at it to build the current, like a lot of like the more current buildings. And so it's like, it's not even like in its original form of like how you would see it.
Yeah.
So when you look at like old paintings, it was very bright and noticeable. Wow. Because the ancient Egyptians, you may not know this, but they were very colorful people. They loved color. But of course, with paint, it wears off over time, especially 3,000 years. So
weathering and all that.
Yep. So now who made this all happen? The pharaoh only tells what he wants. There has to be someone behind the actual structure itself. In this case, the architect behind the pyramid was a man by the name of Hemunu. Sorry. It is assumed that he got the job because he was either a relative to Khufu or involved in the royal family of some way. So he had to have that, like he had those ties with people in that family. It was a prestigious role to be in charge of creating a structure for the pharaoh, especially one of the largest in the world. Hemunu was responsible for a lot. From the organization, from the layout, to the people who worked on the pyramid, it all fell onto him. Big responsibilities. He had to figure out where the workers would live. He would have to hire architects on and pretty much see how they would figure out how the pyramid would be built and how it would be possible. And he would also hire like surveyors of the area. So pretty much like he would hire like all these different like people to be like, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to do this. Report back to me and we'll figure it out. So he was like the big boss. Ancient Egyptians during this time took everything precisely when it came to the stars. They believed that they held importance as they were always there. The Pyramid of Giza was an example of this, as it is almost exactly aligned to point up towards the northern stars. I believe from what I found, it was Orion and Sirius, but I could be wrong because they were kind of like different ones that it kept giving me. But they were aligned with two northern stars.
Okay.
For like the time that it was built. I think it shifts a little bit now, but that's exactly like depending on like the year, like the stars will shift and stuff. It's pretty wild.
That's crazy.
They're very specific. But before anyone could work on the pyramid, they had to begin leveling and organizing out the structure. When it came to the period of establishing the build of the pyramid, that is when the workers would be brought in. Surviving inscriptions have determined that teams of about 20 men would be put together, as each team would have a section to focus on. So like they like one would work on like the east side of the pyramid while one would work on like the west side. And they were all grouped up in like teams of 20. So they would all work together on like the chiseling, the dragging, the placing.
Okay.
Yeah. The teams would work well together as they would encourage each other to do better so that they could potentially be noticed for their hard work. In some cases, if they did hard enough work, they would be promoted. It was an efficient system that was constructed. Nevertheless, it was brutal work. Down at the quarry of the site, the blocks would be chiseled. Then the groups would have to take it all the way to the construction site to place the block. At the bottom of the site, it was continuous that men would inhale limestone dust, hear the loud noise of many chisels, and of course, the heat. Egypt's heat raises very high temperatures, especially with it being in the desert. So I think they may have had to take in like breaks of like seasons and stuff because of how hot the heat was.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, they would have easily died of exhaustion.
For sure.
So I think they did it in seasons. There is no definite proof of how many men were involved in the construction, but it could be easily assumed that 4,000 to 10,000 men were involved. And probably plus, I'm sure.
Dang.
There would also be workers who didn't do the labor of the pyramid. There were workers whose main focus was to make sure the quarry was steady, others who were water carriers, food providers, and blacksmiths who made sure the chisels were in pristine condition or kept making them. It has since been discovered that this all existed from camps around the pyramid. They have been finding them, which is awesome. They have been excavated and have found broken chisels, pottery fragments, and building structures that have long been covered by sand. Another interesting concept that many are unfamiliar with is that the workers were only temporary. Many who need work would put in their few months at the camps and receive pension for their time before returning back to where they live. So it was kind of like a draft process. Yeah. Some liked it, others did not. There was only a small portion of workers who lived at the camps year-round with their families. From excavation, it has also been discovered how these men would spend their lives out of work. A large structure was discovered that there were large rooms with stone beds that would equal amount to like each room have enough for like a team. So it was literally just a room with like 20 stone beds, which is so freaking uncomfortable.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And so it was not really a comfortable living situation because it was very small. But I mean, if you're having like 10,000 men at a time, like there's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
So the common myth that slaves built the pyramids have long since been debunked, but it was not all sunshine and comfortable work atmosphere. Many joined the workforce as it was to give honor to their pharaoh. Others would be recruited with the promise of good living conditions and fed properly. It even came to a point that officials would draft men for state service. They would still be paid and provided housing and food, and it was only for a length of time. So slave labor was not involved. It was pretty much like a draft process, and then you kind of just went on your way. Unfortunately, with a project of high stature, there is always going to be injuries involved. So from excavations of skeletons found in the area, they have concluded that many had received injuries while on the job. Some had found broken bones. And it's crazy how, like, doing x-rays and stuff, they can find this stuff.
Yeah, that is crazy. Wow.
So they have found broken bones, arthritis, which was huge in ancient Egypt because, like, they worked so much. And for, like, all of their lives, like, a lot of people had arthritis.
Wow.
And they also had lower back stress that they could see, too, on, like, x-rays. It is evident with how tall the pyramid is and how heavy each block weighs, casualties would be involved. It was never disclosed in writing how many lives were lost in the process of the building of the pyramid, but from the graves that they found, it was probably quite a few. from what I have found in my readings, is that the substructure of the pyramid was constructed in 3 separate stages. So they had the bottom, middle, top.
Okay.
But there is also a below ground, which is a subterranean chamber, but it was never completed.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So a passageway would lead to it from the entrance. So my thought is that it could have been created to confuse the tomb robbers.
Oh, okay.
Tomb robbers are a very common thing, so it would have taken them longer. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, they could have been caught, but at that point, no. An escape shaft would also be created that led up to the hall of the queen's chamber. So there's just like a bunch of different like passageways. The entrance of the pyramid would be facing the north, as well as 2 air shafts that were spaced out towards the top of the pyramid. Towards the bottom level of the pyramid was the queen's chamber. From the ascending passageway, it would eventually lead to the grand gallery, which was a super tall stone wall passageway that led to the king's chamber. There, that would hold the stone sarcophagus that would hold Khufu for a time before robbers got involved, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Unlike the other kingdom periods, burial chambers in the Old Kingdom did not contain the decorative walls and hieroglyphs, like the really bougie stuff that you see with Tut. Mm-hmm. They didn't have that in the Old Kingdom. So it was pretty much just like these giant pyramids or just buildings and stuff for them to be. Like, I don't think the Valley of the Kings was a thing yet. So still, great goods would be set in place to help guide the pharaoh into his afterlife. So for centuries, the pyramid would be left alone except for the tomb robbers. And for a long time, it was forgotten on who was put to rest in the tomb. But when it came close to the New Age, explorations of the pyramid started up and curiosity of what was held within. It would start in 813 BC when Caliph Mahmud opened the pyramid to see what was held inside. At this point, not all the great goods were stolen yet.
Oh.
This probably changed after. Right?
Yeah, I assume.
So the next exploration wouldn't be seen until the mid-1600s by explorer Greaves. This is where the first survey would be done of the pyramids. For the next couple centuries, more surveys, investigations would be made of the pyramid. In 1954, a worker at the pyramid, El Malaka, would find 2 pits that held 2 dismantled boats. It was just like right in front of the pyramid that was like buried super deep. And they just found it. They're like, holy shit.
Damn.
This boat had 1,224 individual pieces that eventually would be put together. It took them years.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
God, these people have so much patience.
Literally. This boat would be 141 feet long and 19 feet wide.
Oh my God.
Pretty impressive that it survived that many years.
That's crazy.
Since the early 1900s into today, the Pyramid of Giza has been a top site for tourists to visit. Millions of tourists visit yearly, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down, even with the Civil War going on there.
Yeah.
So during this rush of tourists during the early 20th century, because 1900s were really big for tourism in Egypt, people flocked to see the beauty of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Back in the day, it was allowed to climb on the structure and to tour the pharaoh's chamber.
That's insane.
Literally.
Why would you let people do that?
Literally. Over time, it has been realized with the millions of visitors a year that the structure could quickly deteriorate because of it. No shit.
Obviously.
So in efforts to protect the pyramid, access to the pharaoh's chamber has been limited, and there was no ability to climb over the stones like back in the 20s. Security has been increased drastically to protect the site, and the Egyptologists are still working on uncovering more of the pyramid. To help protect the ancient wonder of the world, in 1979, the site was recognized as a World Heritage Site to provide access to keep preserving the structure. So this was kind of like when it became an ancient wonder of the world, even though people knew it was way before then. Mm-hmm. As of late, more of the camps are being uncovered and researched, and slowly but surely we are learning more about how this magnificent pyramid was created and the people who were involved in its establishment.
Wow.
So that is the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Quite interesting.
Literally, one ginormous pyramid has so much story to tell.
I can't believe they let people climb on it.
No one cared.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, because there's like actual photographs of people on the stones. And like when you get that close, you realize how freaking large each stone is. And you're like, someone chiseled this.
Yeah.
And put it in.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then they created all these shafts and stuff too, like inside it.
I cannot believe that people have that amount of patience and wow, perseverance.
And they had to have like pulley systems.
For sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Historia, the podcast. Definitely check out those because we have fun skits on there. Great time.
Okay.
The Krampus one. Iconic. Okay. You can also email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can leave us a review. If you follow this podcast, it will let you know when we post new episodes. And we will see you next Monday.
Yay.
All right. Perfect.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening.